Hello there, Uber Tuber Ubers and all ye others, short, tall, and otherwise. Welcome back. Short Talk in the trailer. You can tell because of the backdrop. With the old guy. And I just wanted to go over a couple of things with you today. And boy, has this been on my mind today or what? There's a guy, I've been listening to his videos and, watching them, on this algorithm right here. And he's a British dude. I can't really tell. He might be about my age. He might be a little bit younger. He's a real level-headed guy, and he used to do kind of more literature and art and stuff, reports about nature and stuff. Anyway, in the last 6 to 8 months, he's been kind of going through a transition, a transformation in a way, and it's happening to a lot of people around the world. You don't have to be a Christian, and I don't believe this man is one, but he might be. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there. He's a good dude. He's a solid dude. Richard Vobes, Vobes, and I would recommend you just subscribe to him. I mean, this guy has some real interesting reports. Well, it wasn't really today, but the one I listened to today, it wasn't released a long time ago. He's talking to a guy about stuff in the air, and you need to listen to this. I mean, if this don't scare the crap out of you, nothing will. His name's Wigington, Dane, D-A-N-E, Wigington, and this guy's a real source. I mean, this guy knows what he's talking about, in my opinion. Do I know what I'm talking about? No, only what I heard. But this guy, he's playing hardball, and the things he has to say matter. They matter to you, they matter to me, they matter to every living creature on the planet. There's a passage, and it struck me today for the first time as I was thinking about this, as I thought, I watched about the first half because I didn't tune in till about 7:03 or something. So I listened to it on the way to work. So I listened to probably the first 38 minutes of it this morning out of I think it's an hour or two. Anyway, the name of the video, don't ask me how to do links because that involves cybertech. It's called, the title on the thing, They Are Destroying the Planet. Good title. And I shared the thing to that other algorithm this morning, and it's just crazy what's going on. I'll be honest with you, for the last 20 years, I've been basically scoffing and laughing at the so-called global warming alarmists. And, our big problem has to do with CO2, way too much carbon dioxide, which plants eat and makes them healthy. So let's knock that off. And all that hokey pokey, that is an absolute smokescreen. That is a lie. And I've been making fun of it. But I didn't realize, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention or didn't want to pay attention. I'm not real clear on this. I did see this Wigington guy. And it was about, I'm making this up, maybe 10 to 12 weeks ago on another channel. Like a guy named Jean Nolan, Jean, but it sounds like Jean, like a French name. But he's an American. But anyway, he just calls himself John. But the Inspired Tribe. The same guy was on there, and he was mentioning some of the same stuff. So it didn't hit me as absolute news. I kind of, it's like it began to echo. But this interview here between Richard and him, hokey smokes, you got to see it. It's a need to, it's a got to. You got to hear it, and almost nobody will. As I posted it this morning, I put something like on the header, the governments are trying to poison us, or something like that. Is anyone going to watch that video over there? I would be very surprised. I would be very, very surprised. I don't think anybody ever hits on the videos that I suggest over on that other algorithm. I don't know what to say. I can't make, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's an old, truism. You can lead a gringo to the facts, but you can't make him believe it. He's got to do that part. And we just don't want to. Now, one thing that's real important, and I want you to think about this, I've been talking off and on about these CTs overhead for at least 9 years, I think. I think that's about right. Eight or nine, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's when I first became aware of it. And, I grew up as a boy in the 60s, and I know what jet contrails look like, okay? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. The leader is the aircraft. You can just see it. It's a nice little spot. It might glint a little bit in the sun, depending on your angle. Behind that is the white, flared-out tail. Well, it dissipates about a quarter mile, maybe 3/8 of a mile behind the craft as it travels forward. It's going, I don't know, 450 or 500 miles an hour. They're up, I don't know, 26,000 feet or wherever they're at. And contrails disappear. Not, you know what I'm talking about. Don't say the CT word, because what happens is as soon as you say chem, the tin foil hat drops on their head, the eyes blank out, and they go blah, blah, blah. I can't hear a word you're saying. And it's like, don't you realize what's happening here? Don't you realize? I mean, this Wigington guy, he does some real research, and I need to get into that. He has his own site because, of course, the government and everybody's trying to blockade him. They don't want him talking about this stuff. Geoengineeringwatch.org. I hardly ever look up sites, you know, when they're recommended, but I'm going to look this one up. The guy's got a lot of solid, good evidence, and what he says makes sense, and he's dealing with reality, and it's scary as hell. He's talking about maybe 2 to 3 years out, if we keep it up, doing this pattern we got going on with all these surfactants and metals in the air, particulates, nanoparticles. He says they're everywhere now. They're in the food, they're in the water. He said he's crawled underneath houses that you haven't crawled in that crawl space in 30 years. Measure the air. The stuff is in there. It's everywhere. And this stuff is slowly precipitating out. Even graphene is showing up. Graphene in the rainwater, as an example. But that's not the end of it at all. Oh, no. No, no, no. I mean, these guys are able now to generate high-altitude heat domes. And here's an idea for you, as a sort of a, shall we say, a foreign policy expert might be inclined to do. There are 2 recent earthquakes, one in Turkey and one in Japan. The thing they both have in common, for 3 days solid, above them was a high-level heat inversion. The air superheated way up high. Very unnatural. It never occurs by itself. Something's happening. The air masses are being manipulated. After the high-pressure zone sits over an area for 3 to 4 days, boom, down there's an earthquake. Right below it. Right below it. Turkey and Japan, and guess what? After the little quake, well then, maybe we'll agree. And they became a little more, shall we say, let's make a deal. They know what's going on. And most of the people just have no idea. When you start with the CT thing, the eyes close, the tinfoil hat falls down, and they can't hear you talking. So don't use the CT word. That's what these guys recommend, and I think it's probably sound advice. So I'm not going to do it. I've used that word 100 times, and I can see it when I say it to people. Their eyes just glaze over. They've stopped listening. They don't have the time. They don't have the energy to invest. You're a crazy person. Move along, and that's the way it is. And today's sponsor before the end of the world, 805. Pretty good cerveza. That's what this gringo says. It's about 5, and I was planning on later on going down. I'm looking at a new church. Well, they're new themselves. They haven't been around a long time, but a new church to me. It's a Reformed Baptist outfit, and I have nothing against Reformed Baptists. Probably a bunch of good folks. And anyway, I had a chance to talk with the young pastor last night, and I'm down here in southern New Mexico, so when you see the name Trevino, Terevino, there's a possibility of what's called an Enya. An Enya. It looks like a little squiggly guy over top of the last N. So, as an example, down in El Paso, there's a highway called Lee Trevino Highway, or whatever. But some people insist on saying Trevino. It sounds like a Y at the end. Well, that's if the Enya is there. Well, Lee Trevino, he was a famous golfer for years, and a good one, too. Anyway, he never used the Enya, so it would be pronounced as Trevino. So actually, I don't care how it's pronounced. A real interesting guy, lucid, pays attention, solid Christian man. So I'm going to go visit down there on Sunday and see what I think. But tonight's a Wednesday, and I said, well, do you guys got anything going on during the week? He says, we do have a prayer meeting, and he told me, I consider it to be a very important part of our church. So I'm going to go over there. It's somebody's home. Guess what I did? I wrote the address down on a piece of paper. What did I do with it? So I'm gonna have to call the guy in a little while. See, hey, Pastor, how you doing? I don't know who stole my little address thing, but could you give me that number again? It's a street address, and it's not gonna be hard to find. It's just I can't remember what it said. I could have taken a picture, I suppose. I'll root around here. It's probably on the floor somewhere. I do that kind of stuff all the time. Anyway, getting back to reality for just a moment. You make a point. If you're a friend, if you have any sense in your head, listen here. I understood this for the first time in my life today. There's a warning, a dire warning that Lord Jesus utters at some point, and I'm probably going to mangle this one too, but having to do with the tribulation period, as far as I understand it, 3.5 years, 42 months, blah, 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 1,290 days, 1335, a time times and half time, 3.5 years, more or less. Well, guess what? He's saying, I mean, this Wigington guy, that we got 2 or 3 years. I mean, the earth has 2 or 3 years, that if we don't arrest this right away, basically life itself on this planet becomes largely untenable. Food is involved, water's involved, the trees are dying, forests are burning, and there's this little episode down in Hawaii, as you recall. It turns out that when you have precipitates like, say, for instance, aluminum precipitates in nanoparticle size, and they lodge on trees and plants and grass and stuff, guess what? When that thing goes to flame, it becomes like a magnesium flare. The sucker burns super hot. That's not the end of it. In fact, it's hardly the beginning. You need to watch the video. Just go do it. But at any rate, the short version, it's like all this stuff about these super high heat zones. Now all of a sudden in the Gulf of Mexico recently, the water was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's like jacuzzi temperatures. The water in the ocean should never be there. I don't care if it's the middle of summer or not. And they're monkeying with stuff right and left. And it's deadly. 90%, that's a 9 with a 0 after it, 90% of Atlantic, that green stuff, algae and stuff that grows that whales like to eat and stuff, kind of like the basis of life on planet Earth in terms of generation of what? Oxygen again. The CO2 reacts with this stuff. These things, these green things in the water, plankton, are just tremendously important for the environment. Well, they're killing that stuff off like crazy. Species are dying. Entire species are going extinct. This guy claims now, I'm having a hard time believing this, 300 species of, might be insects, might be, I don't know what he's measuring, 300 species of life are going extinct every day? That sounds outrageous. That's hard to believe. But I think it's real. And so in the Bible, Jesus warns, and he says, if the Father himself had not shortened those days, the ones we're talking about, the 3.5 years, no flesh would have survived. He doesn't say no human. He doesn't say no boy or girl. Flesh is a generic term. In this case, I believe he's talking about living things. Living things. Unless the Father had not cut it short, no living things would have survived. Now that's going to get, we're going to call that a capital B with a U and a TT. Ugly. Ugly. Oh, that's going to be dark. And they're making it happen. Who hears? Who sees? Who cares? Who even understands the dire circumstances of this being played out? It's like a global, that whole thing down in Jonestown years and years ago. Now, if you're old like me, you remember it from the news. But if you're young, you'll have to Google it. There was a guy named Jim Jones, and he collected a bunch of people. They went down to, I think it was Guyana, and they started this bogus little commune down there called Jonestown. And then he had a mass suicide episode at the end where they had poisoned Kool-Aid. I think it was grape. I don't know. And I don't know what they put in there, strychnine or something. I can't remember what the poison was. But an awful lot of people died there. It was a group suicide cult. And that was his grand innovation for theology and how to live in Jesus, that kind of stuff. So the guy was a complete heretic. He was a pervert and frankly, psychotic. But speaking of psychotics, the people who are doing this stuff are well aware of not only what they're doing, But they're the ones who are funding it, and they're going to make sure it continues to happen. Why? Why are they interested in superheating? You remember last summer where they were talking about the summer of boiling water, or whatever it was called, the boiling summer? Well, there was actually reality to that. And it was these superheated cells high in the atmosphere, completely unnatural. The ozone layer is being blown away by this junk. The ozone layer is in danger of expanding to such a point. See, you've heard of UVA, I think, and UVB, because if you look at a bottle of sunblock, it says that. There's another one called UVC. C, like vitamin. No, you don't want this stuff. It's ugly, man. And it's just right in the neighborhood. As soon as you start seeing UVC, you can start looking for X-rays and gamma coming through. See, the atmosphere is what's shielding us, or what was. And then all of a sudden, cancers are going through the roof. Iffy. Very iffy. So, it's a scary video, but Richard's a very good interviewer. He's a solid guy, and I like him. If you do nothing, if you like what I have to say, please do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Do your loved ones a favor. And get with it and watch this thing. Or you can find a lot of the same information on John Nolan on Inspired Tribe about 10 weeks ago, I think. Same guy. Or you can get on, Wigington has this thing called geoengineeringwatch.org. 45 million hits plus already. And they try to silence this guy every way they can. He's been fighting this fight for over 20 years, he said. I think that's right. Over 20 years he's been in this, and he's one of the few that's actually talking sense on this issue of, as they call it, climate change. And they say it's man-made climate change. Damn straight it is, but it's not what they're telling you. They're doing this on purpose. They're actually able, with microwaves and 5G, and I don't know what they're doing electronically because I don't understand tech stuff. They can monkey with the weather, and they can make things happen. They can make snow go away. And instead you get ice balls that fall down that are super cooled. This stuff is no longer like any hail or snow or sleet you've ever seen. It's a new product, and it's caused chemically by the junk they're putting in the air. They're getting hailstones, according to this guy, bigger than my fist. Freak hailstones that just have never been equaled in our records. Size of a softball even, 4 inches in diameter, even bigger here and there. I'm just touching the surface here a little bit, just to kind of whet your appetite, and I hope maybe to spread the word some here. But I mean, seriously, unless 80% of the people in the world woke up to this, and I mean, with pitchforks and torches went out and hunted down every one of these four-letter word people who are doing this stuff, and stop them by force, burn down their equipment, make them stop, and make them quit pumping garbage in the air through tankers. Because remember the CTs? That's a big part of this. The particulates and junk, they're even detecting now surfactants in rainwater, which means, short version, when it runs down the street after a rain, it's sudsy, it's bubbly. Why? It would be like, who put the liquid detergent in there? Did they? Yes, they did. And then there's these fibrous junk that they use polymers. Oh my gosh, it's like the equivalent of inhaling plastic. Real good idea there. And there's even graphene oxide. I think it's graphene. Maybe it's just graphene pure. I don't know. There's graphene now showing up in rainwater. How did that get there? That's a man-made substance. It doesn't occur in nature. You have to make it out of carbon, out of graphite. And who's paying attention? Can you think of one federal or world authority? Who in the UN? Who in the U.S. Senate? Which of the judges of the Supreme Court? Which president, certainly not the one we've got, is even discussing it as if it were an issue? It's a front burner issue, because if we let this go another 2 to 3 years, as far as Wigington says, it will be irreversible. we're talking about massive species die-offs. This is the part I don't get. These evil four-letter word, four-letter word, four-letter word people who are involved in this and making this happen. How do they win by killing life in the earth pattern? I mean, most of it. Maybe even all of it. I don't know. Maybe cockroaches will survive. They're pretty tough. But it's just horrible. And so anyway, I don't want to scare you. I don't want to freak you out. I just want to let you know this is real, man. And if you give a hoot about what's real and what's actually happening, and then you begin to observe the double talk and the lies and the crap that's out there circulating in so-called the media, and the propaganda they're spouting all the time, there'll never be a word about any of this. Oh no. It has to do with you driving a gasoline-powered car. That's our huge, big, hairy problem. Ugh. Nah, that's just a lie. And it's a mean-spirited, ugly one, too. Devils are involved here. Who thinks of killing at that level? Who thinks of mayhem at that extraordinary, disgusting range? Anyone that you know of? Not me. I don't even think people like Adolf Hitler, if you'd given them the opportunity, hey, how about this? I got a deal. We got some tech. And if you want to go and fund this thing, we can essentially kill life on planet Earth. That might help you in your war effort. In other words, the other side would die, but your side dies too. Your country falls too. Who wins here? What's the upside? And so it's like I said, it's like a suicide pact. It's deeply insane, and it's empowered by the enemy. Don't expect it to make sense, and don't expect truth to reign. Don't expect our so-called leaders to even admit it, much less do anything meaningful about it. It's your life that's, I mean, I've been talking about this stuff now for months, that it's like, isn't it so weird to you? Doesn't it strike you as odd that the governing powers are interested in bumping off humans? And the example I was been using all along has been, you know what, for the so-called thing that came out of a box delivered by that little rat face over to foreign shores. Then it was re-released upon the populace, but guess what? It's the so-called medicine which is doing the damage, most of it. I've been concentrating on that, saying, well, you know, the government, it doesn't seem odd to you. I don't remember the part of the Constitution where authorities swear oath to, here's my oath as an office holder in the United States of America. I swear to bump off as many Americans as I can for profit. And that includes abortion, too. This is grievous. It's serious and it's bad. And nobody's going to do a darn thing about it. I can tell you right now. There will be no uprising. There will be no popular outrage. People will continue to believe with their blinkers on, or blinders on, I mean, that there's nothing really going on. There's nothing to see. I don't see any problems. Why? Because my hands are blocking my peripheral vision. And be courageous. This comes from the Savior. Be bold and be true. And don't be afraid to say what's unpopular. But all I'm saying is, I'm not against using the CT word, but I'm saying that if you really want someone to hear you, talk about particulates being delivered by aerosol by man on purpose. There's facts about this. It's out there. And the interview here, it's an excellent one. And again, Richard, good guy, good work. And kudos from this old gringo. Thanks for doing it. The world... You've served a great service to your brothers and sisters. Boy, I mean, when I watched this thing today, it hit me right between the eyes, and I realized I already knew this from at least 10 to 12 weeks ago, and I wasn't paying attention. Nobody is. Nobody around the world. No government agency, no UN office, no big important company like, say, ExxonMobil. Or are they the one nowadays? I can't remember. Anyway, who cares? None of these multi-billion dollar companies, like, say, for instance, the drug cartels. I mean, the legitimate drug producers, drug cartels, uh, which of them are saying, oh, you know what, we should really pay attention and we got to knock this off right now, because if we don't, the waters were so hot in the Gulf, all the coral died, as an example. They're getting poisoned forests. They called, Mr. Wigington called, there's a dieback on one of the most frequently found trees in American forests, the fir tree, FIR. And they're dying so rapidly and so broadly. One of the authors was calling it Fur-mageddon. Fur-mageddon. All the firs are dying. Well, what do you got with a forest full of dead trees? You got a load ready to burn. And that's what happened in Canada this year. It's still going on. It's man-made. Yeah, it's all right, man-made. But it ain't little old ladies driving down to get a bag of groceries on a Sunday that's causing the problem. It's coming from the highest authorities there are in the world politically. And they're crooked, and they're crooked as hell. And they mean us no good. They mean us to die off. This is mass murder. This makes anything that Adolf Hitler ever imagined as his great ambition to be small potatoes, nickels and dimes. He only killed 6 million. That's nothing. What's it like to kill 8 billion people anyhow? Ugh, these people are just horrible. Worse than that, they're devil-inspired. I have to believe it. No human, no psychopath, not even Charlie Manson would stoop to this level without demonic oppression and even possession at the root. This is a spiritual war. This is a spiritual fight, and you got to be prepared. Get prayed up, and get connected with your church family. If you're not, then get started. The hour's late. We're losing valuable time, and I've been asleep at the switch for almost 3 months now. I'm sorry to say, but by golly, you can rouse the people, maybe, probably not. You can warn them. Will they hear it? You can state clearly, as best as you can, what the real payday on this is going to be. And I was telling a young guy I work with today, and as soon as I said it, I saw his eyes glaze over, his ears just shut, and he started staring out the window. He wasn't hearing a word I had to say. He doesn't want to know. He's afraid of hearing. And so if I close my ears, blah, 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 close my eyes, blah, blah, and make a lot of noise, and I can keep busy enough in my little world over here, I don't have to look at that stuff. I don't have to be freaked out. Is that the way you want to live? Not me. Not me. So remember, Jesus is Lord. He owns the world. And I think he cares a lot too, wouldn't you, to find out that man, his creature, is murdering the planet that he meant to act as a kind of a nest, a safe place, an environment for all life to grow in. They're destroying that. Why? How do they win? What's the financial payoff for creating a desert world? Are you going to rule that all by yourself? You think you won? Really? Nah. Jesus Christ wins. He has the victory. And these wicked men shall be shattered. They shall be driven down and broken permanently. This is not the unforgivable sin, but it's a wretched, vile treason against life itself. And life is the gift of God. Forget that, and you lose. Remember it and thank him for it. He keeps you alive. Why? To interact with him. He's the centerpiece. He's the one we're drawn to. He's the truth. He's the light. He's the way himself unto God, and he's the God himself that he's leading you to. He's Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. That's the true God. We're dealing mainly with the Son because we're believers. But he's fully God. And what he does and what he says is right and always true. So he's all in favor of life, see? He's all in favor of helping plants grow and making sure that the environment is, has the right. Can you think about how complicated soil is in terms of all the microorganisms that need to be in it for plants to thrive? They're killing even the microorganisms with this junk. Ugly, man. Ugly, ugly. Well, I wish you a good day, and maybe you can find a Wednesday, prayer service to go to, or maybe just, kind of huddle up somewhere with a friend or two, or go pray by yourself. Uh, make yourself known to the Father and let Him know, hey, I want to be a part of your plan, because at least your plan makes sense and it keeps people alive. That was the whole point of the salvation at Calvary. He's saving lives that would have otherwise been destroyed in judgment. He's interceding for us, pleading His own case on our sorry behalf, that we be cleansed, that we be freed, that we be forgiven, that we receive mercy. And He took it in the neck, that we could be a part of that. That's why He came, to free the slaves. And we're the slaves because it's slaves to sin. And when you're a slave to sin, you're blind to it. You don't even know you are. And you can't even believe it without help. So I'll pray for the help. I'll pray for the gospel. I'll pray that you can hear somebody in your own world where it makes sense, that come back to Jesus before it's too late. We're running out of time. We only have a few years now until something dreadful happens, and everything you knew about the world is over. It's getting that bad. And I don't mean to freak you out, but I already knew that 2024 and 2025 is going to be real dark, ugly, weird, bad stuff. So buckle in. It's going to be a wild ride. And He wins every time. So if I live or if I die, well, that's in His hands. But I tell you this right now, if you're not for life, then you're a raging lunatic and you need to be locked up forever. And this includes multi-billionaire bankers who are involved in this crap. Such ambition cannot be blessed. You rise up and challenge your Maker, you will be thrown down. He says so. And His people agree. They testify. God will be honored. God will be held in the highest esteem. And He shall be fully vindicated in all that He did, does, and ever shall do. As being righteous and without blame, He fulfilled His side of the oath. And He went further than that, and for His people fulfilled our side of the oath as the first of the new kind of man, the new Adam, Jesus Christ. He's the first of the new kind of men and women to rise from the dead, to have conquered death, put it in the rear view, clothed now with immortality, light, power, and gladness, in a new creation. And there's none of this crap going on in that one, let me tell you. He's the living one. He's the living Word. And you need to hear Him, because right at the bottom of all this, the real problem is that we thought we could shuck Him off. We thought we could do it on our own. And look at the damage we're doing. It's horrible. It's horrible. So be cheered up anyway, because no one's going to listen to you, but you got to say it anyhow, just for your own sake. Hear what I got to say. Go listen to Richard and listen to Dane. And if that doesn't shake you to your roots, I'm telling you, you're asleep at the switch. Wake up. It's getting late. You can't afford this. Bye-bye. Go find a place to pray. That's what I'm going to do.